Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Milan Sharma Show, a show discussing a variety of subjects through the lens of civil discourse. I'm your host, Milan Sharma, and today the subject we'll be discussing is failure. And I'm going to argue why failing is actually a good thing, in the long run, at least. So obviously you're probably thinking to yourself, Milan, how could failure be a good thing? Failing sucks. It makes me cry. It makes me nervous, agitated, frustrated. It puts me into a depressive state, maybe at times. It puts you in a downward spiral emotionally. All these possibilities can happen. You feel like you're losing out on an opportunity that you thought could make you successful, whether that's in business, whether that's with friendships, romantic partner, your health, etc. There's so many different genres and topics to get into. I'm going to argue that after a recent experience that I've dealt with, I realized that failing is not as bad as you think. Now, don't get me wrong, the experience of failing does stink, for sure, and there's always negative emotions attached to it, like I explained earlier. But when you detach yourself from those negative emotions and really think through everything that you deal with, you can always take lessons from failures. So let's say an easy example with dating. Dating someone or you get rejected or anything like that happens, you realize the type of person that you want in a partner. And maybe that wasn't what you originally thought you wanted. So for example, someone may say they want a very quiet person, and then they go out with a quiet person, and maybe they don't want to be with them. Or they date someone very talkative and extrovert, and it's too much energy for them to handle, and they don't want to be with that person. So when you're dealing with failure and rejections, you can always take a lesson from that experience and apply it to another circumstance. And I think so many people do not take advantage of this. And they get caught up in the negative emotions. And instead of taking something from that experience and using that to propel yourself forward for another experience, so you have a better chance to be successful, they wallow in the failure and they plateau, or they're stuck in a ditch almost. Kind of like you're climbing a mountain, but then you're kind of stuck in a valley and you just kind of stay there, stagnant, not moving forward. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make. And it made me realize, like in the past few years, if I didn't learn from my failure, learn from my mistakes, even if I didn't make a mistake, even if I just failed, if I didn't take a lesson from that and applied it for future circumstances, I would be miserable. I'd be petrified. I'd be wallowing in my failure forever. And it's something that I believe our culture doesn't teach us enough. Our culture teaches us perfection all the time. I mean, look at social media. Look at the popular social media outlets like Facebook, Instagram. What's the one starts with? There you go, TikTok, of course. All these platforms, they present everybody with an idea of perfectionism, and perfectionism in and of itself is not a bad thing to strive for. Of course, you want to be perfect, but it's not realistic. It's not realistic to be perfect. And seeing celebrities and seeing all of their social media pictures and videos, maybe even books they write, and everything you see online and see what they have, there was a lot of struggle to get that for a lot of these people. And if you read some autobiographies or documentaries, a lot of people really struggled. They could have lived in a car. They could have lived in maybe a one bedroom with 2 people, 3 people. And there was a lot of struggle for people to reach success. And people do not see that. They don't see it. They just see, oh, that actor's successful. I love that actor. I love that actress. But people fail to realize that those exact people that everybody looks up to, they, in all likelihood, used their failure and took lessons from it to continue to move forward. Now, obviously, the failure I dealt with recently, I'm not going to get into the details of that, but the failure I dealt with, of course, there's instant negativity and there's instant negative emotions that are involved with that. And all I'm saying is that is natural. That's completely natural. I'm not saying to be happy when you fail, because that would be kind of idiotic in my opinion. But my point is that there isn't always, like, failing isn't the end all be all. It's not an ends to a means. You can always take something from it. And I really encourage you, if you're dealing with something, if you're failing, if you had a recent failure, I really encourage you to take a deep look and a deep dive at what you can take advantage of in the circumstance, and see what you can learn from it, so that you don't make. So not only do you not make that mistake again, but you could at least avoid that and move forward and make another decision. So for me, I kind of realized that a certain position that I was trying to do didn't really suit my skill set the best that I thought it could be. So initially, upon taking a certain position, I thought my skill set would fit the mold very, very quickly, very efficiently, as long as I worked hard. However, I realized very quickly that, not very quickly, but a few months in, that really this type of field did not suit my skill set efficiently, and now I know in the future not to repeat that. Now, obviously it stings, obviously it's difficult, but you need to have a vision. You need to have a vision of not being stuck in that place, because so many people, when they fail, they feel like they themselves are a failure, but that isn't true. You're not a failure yourself, and you're not a byproduct of failure. It's just that you tried something, it didn't work, and you move on to something else. You try again, and you move on to something else. And I think if you deal with it with those if you have that mindset of okay, you try something, doesn't work, okay, it really stings, have a moment of grief, move on to something else. Now, obviously, it's easier to say that. It's easier said than done. People have circumstances that could be very severe to very minimal, and I believe that could sound very just the opposite of empathetic. It could sound very checkpoint A, like A to B kind of style of saying something, a style of solution, a checkpoint A to Z of solving a problem. And I know every problem isn't solved by saying that, but at least my hope for you is that you can take something and learn from your experience. Because failing, and give yourself some credit for failing. And I know it sounds crazy. Give yourself credit for failing, because so many people are afraid to fail. They don't do things. They don't take action on anything. So, for example, like me starting this YouTube channel, people could say, "Oh, it doesn't have much subscribers," and "Oh, you don't have many people downloading your podcast," and they may make fun of you for that. However, they're not. If you look at them, they're not doing anything. They're not starting their own business, their own brand. They're not cultivating their own creativity because they fear how other people will perceive them. And if you recently failed in something after trying something new, and you're teasing and people are teasing you about it, it's actually a good thing that they're teasing you, because they're giving you recognition for your failure, and if it's occupied in their mind, it's actually a valuable thing. So don't get caught up in what other people are thinking about what they're telling you, because a lot of times they themselves are actually jealous of you taking the initiative to actually do something. So that's all for today on the subject of failure. I'm your host, Milan, and please like, share, subscribe. Follow the podcast on your favorite audio platform. You can click the link below to see where to follow and subscribe, and download if you'd like. And thank you very much for listening.